So I've gotten some great feedback, terrific feedback. Thank you. The text line is AMA all day. Ask me anything, 650 283 8008. 650 283 8008. What they don't teach you at YCombinator, it has a direct crossover to Vagina Whisperer, specifically, comma, quote, hashtag Vagina Whisperer. We as women tend to have imposter complex. There, I said it. Because venture capital is a form of affirmation. It's like looking for permission from a person who is non-relevant, okay? What does Dean Chalmers Secrets know about anything? Does he even know the difference between his mouth and his asshole? He does not. I discovered this early, not because Dean Chalmers Secrets was a cunt to me, Chinese understood networking faux pas, cunt, where Chinese people just are negative to other Chinese people, like crabs in a pot, being kind of neg, like neggy neg. Is this the first time I got negged in school? No. This woman who was postmenopausal diagnosed me as a retard. This applies to vagina whispering because we don't need to look for more validation via venture capital, because you're going to go bankrupt trying to impress people that don't matter. In school, you're so conditioned to gain approval of 5 teachers per semester, per quarter, per school year to get their validation. And so you get into Y Combinator, congratulations, okay? And why is the bankruptcy rate at like 50+%? Wink, wink, not fucking funny. 80% fatality rate, where partners have to write the most asinine essay ever. I almost said dumb blog post ever, but it's asinine. It's literally the dumbest thing ever, which is default alive or default dead, because everybody at YC, to the partner's eyes, are default dead. Why won't you just be default alive? Hat tip Tom Ball, Wednesday, 2:25 p.m. Who takes notes from the front row of Whale Dome? I should have sat first chair entrepreneurship, but I had to be a baller and sit in the skybox seats. Tom Ball said, default alive, quoting Paul Graham, quoting Larry Chang, because Larry Chang said this in a bullet point. Why are you default dead? Why do you have the imposter complex, vagina whisperer, telling you this? Why do you have to wait for venture capitalists? Why can't you just go direct to the money, which is being held by a customer? It's magic money. It's almost better than magical internet money, eCash, Bitcoin. I roll my eyes because we're literally back to 1999. This is like my 75,000th rodeo. Imposter complex of waiting for a VC to validate you. Waiting for more validation. For example, you can say, hey, I'm DoorDash. This is crazy. I'm going in a computer science lecture. Sequoia's got a term sheet to just throw me $26 million, upping the round to like $30 million because I'm just so mother scratching popular. So wait a minute. Let me get this straight, Stanford boy, college boy. Why are you able to brag about venture capital, but I can't brag about vagina whispering in seasoned executives to throw me revenue? Like, why is that gauche? Why is that too bougie? Why is that not standard practice where I get to talk shit about how much salary I get from my own startup or my C corporation where I got to pay taxes twice? Okay, why can't I brag about the leftover money at the end of the year that I take as profit? Air quotes, specific quotes. Why? Why can you only talk positively about venture money? This is at the heart of what's wrong with Chinese people. Because Chinese people, you can tell everybody that you went to your safety college, Wharton, okay? But like, what? Like, I mean, that's Ivy technically, but that's like barely Ivy. And so, why are you so focused on impressing people that kind of don't matter, where the only thing that matters is what? It's a question I ask you, imposter complex people. Is getting to a level of FU money. Imposter complex. This is the vagina whisperer talking now. Why is it that when you get customer money in that you feel like such a fraud? Is it because you can't talk about it? Is it because you feel guilty that a customer is giving you $175 for the API call that they could have done by themselves? In fact, what's going to be even more counterintuitive is if you give them a presentation called, that my mentor told me to do, how to do what United College Marketing Services does without having to hire United College Marketing Services, aka Duck 9, without having to hire Duck 9. How to do what Duck 9 does without having to hire Duck 9. How to do what United College Marketing Services does without having to hire United College Marketing Services. How to do what your YC startup does without having to hire your YC startup. Unlike your VC slide deck pitch, which is one slide deck, 5 co-founders, all of us code, 4 of us went to Stanford, 1 retard who does all the work went to the University of Illinois. Ditto DoorDash, 5 Stanford engineers, maybe 6, 1 quit, all 5 code, all 5 hustle. That's the one slide. The 750 slide deck, or at least 650 slides, is how to do what Duck9 does without hiring Duck9. And you, on page 510, you put the slide of this is how to execute an external API into Google, because Google won't let you run an API for is this cell phone number Google Voice, because that deadbeat who can't pay a cell phone, they're actually going to defraud you. It's not even zip code specific. We're not even redlining, okay? We're cell phone number underwriting. Why do you have imposter complex for when you succeed? You're not crabs in a pot with your poverty mindset, politically correct scarcity mindset. It's not vibrational alignment. This is your woke word at YC for your feminist crabs in a pot, except that in your brain, your brain's own neurons are trying to drag you down. Do you see why I started this video off with Vagina Whisperer? Because you're becoming supernatural. So in your brain, in chapter 4 and chapter 11, with time as a flat circle, your own brain is a crab pot. It's a pot of crabs, and the water's boiling. The boiling water is bankruptcy's coming. You just don't know it. Bankruptcy's coming, and you just won't hear it. Just because it's coming in a mode or a fashion that is not in alignment and sometimes makes you feel unsafe, I'm going to be the first person to bring up consent, because I'm the one who wired consent into foreplay, because I consent from me to you, for you to be honest with me, which is why you can send me a hateful text message to 650-283-8008. I consent for you to text message my one and only phone that sits next to my other two phones in a hive mind of Apple account. Get it? Because they all hive mind together, where if your phone's connected to Apple and you have another account attached to Apple, it all goes into all the phones. So the one phone I have is the 7 phones I have, right? Because California people like the 650 number. Texas people are comfortable with a 305 number, Miami. And then New York people really only want to text message OGs who are 212. And Jason Calcanis, he is old school LA, and he wants to let you know it. So he's not going to be rocking the 949. He's not going to be rocking the... You get it. Vagina Whisperer is about imposter complex, and your own brain is a crab pot of crabs not leaving the crab pot. Scarcity mindset. Getting mentored by a toxic feminist who is so feminist that he figured out every female's socioeconomic problem. Dave Chappelle was joking, and he's right. What this feminist movement needs is a really smart man. You text me the problem that women have, and I'll text you a blog post that I wrote during my gender reversal entrepreneurship exercise moments at Women 2.0 and at Girls in Tech. Hat tip Annie Chang from Women 2.0. Hat tip Adriana Gascoigne from Girls in Tech. Hat tip Lisa Falzone from Stanford Women in Business, in addition to Rebecca and Amy Saper and everybody at SWIB, Stanford Women in Business. Because Vagina Whisperer is not about being a pussy magnet, okay, which this face obviously is. It's about understanding how money and default and venture capital and revenue intertwine in a way that causes females to never start, over prepare, but once females do enter entrepreneurship, females data-wise are great. But why is that hezzy there? I solved that. Unpopular but true. There's a limited number of years that we all have to live, okay? I know Peter, who is aged horribly, thinks that he can live forever, but like, he is aging horribly. There's a limited number of eggs, and because that shot clock is ticking, you get so stressed that you're like, oh my God, my shot clock is so loud in my own head, I'm going to hit the panic button and not be able to do all I need to do, when you just need to let Larry Chang inside of you. Just let me come inside of you and to help you realize movie mind. Time is a flat circle, because you have an infinite amount of time. Joe Dispenza, Larry Chang, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Tom Brady. Specifically with PQRST, because every mistake that you're going to make, some really smart VC with the world's smallest fund ever can predict your mistakes. Let me repeat that. before you go bankrupt, there are signs. And I wrote out a book report to 5 books that I can quote to the page number when a person is leading a company to go bankrupt. Think about how hard it is for a Chinese man to say that, because I have imposter complex way more than you can ever have. It's just that I beat it down twice a day, which is these 5 books. Crossing the Chasm, Jeffrey Moore, 1991. 4 Steps to the Epiphany, Stephen Blank. Eric Ries, Lean Startup. Alexander Ostrander, Business Model Generation. What they don't teach you at Harvard Business School. Imposter Complex. Speaking at a conference you're not invited to. You would take that if you were a white Caucasian dude. You're like, oh yeah, I should speak. I went to freaking PU, Purdue University. What? You feel like you deserve to speak? I went to Purdue, studied engineering. Yeah, I applied to University of Illinois and MIT, and I didn't even try for Stanford because, like, it was 2017 and shit got competitive. Caucasian dudes do not have imposter complex. Neither do black dudes, but we're not even going to go there. If you feel like you don't have imposter complex to speak, but why are you having imposter complex from having to crash an industry? I'm not talking about crashing a party. I'm talking about what your company does at its core. You have a new startup, okay, that you gave birth to. Now what? You're now trying to enter an industry. And do you see where women get to play consent in dating on easy mode? So you trying to penetrate a new market without consent, that's a skill set that's not familiar to you, where you're getting reps. Ditto men. Men have also no experience, which is why, what's that phrase for when you don't bang ever? I think it's DBA, okay? Involuntary celibate. Good job. Getting texts via during videos is hilarious. Involuntary celibate. Not even trying to enter an industry. That's most people's startups. YC startups actually do pretty good with entering industries, because all you guys do is look for a warm intro upon more warm intro, and you're like, oh my God, I'm in the industry now. And then you get to speak because your DEI checks every box, okay? Diversification, equity, intellectual, okay? You're totally DEI checked. Why don't you just focus? Because the focus of this video is Vagina Whisperer helps you jump over imposter complex, which is when you're crashing an industry, can you crash a party? Forget about crashing parties if that's too scandalous for you. Why do you go to dinners that we as women are invited to thinking that we're crashing, where we can't even go solo? This is why. Because as a tall, attractive, dare I say, fuego hot Chinese man, when I get invited to things, I'm always like, is this girl gonna expect sex at the end of this social invitation? And then I start to get stressed because I'm always horny, but then if I put out, does that mean that we are now not doing work? Or if it's a social invitation to a work function, but then it's 2 nights overnight and she only booked the 1 hotel, and now I don't quite know. This is why I'm the vagina whisperer, because before going to that dinner, you need to specifically define the friend zone and then specifically retract consent proactively. And this is why I am the vagina whisperer, because as a man, I realize that with the whole Me Too hiccup, now a wayward thing, that it skews distribution, sales, and money towards people that have to play distribution on hard mode. Which is why I'm first to talk about consent and first to talk about the friend zone. Because when you're getting invited to things, you're going to have imposter complex and have 15 questions, which is why sometimes we as women don't get invited, because we're going to have 17 questions. Whereas you invite a Caucasian dude who's tall, cool, I'll go. It's speed of execution. It's speed of saying yes, because if you say yes slowly, you're really going to have a hard time getting other people to say yes fast. In business, with money transfers, with money generation, revenue generation, lead generation. And before you say, oh, no, it was a woman if I just blah, 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 okay, I'm not buying it. Do you know why? Scoreboard. Because the scoreboard says women, prior to Larry Chang rising as a phoenix to become vagina whisperer, like every female billionaire got to be a billionaire from inheriting it. Whereas right now, if you're a female billionaire, you're welcome, and text me anytime to go to New York Fashion Week, because I think I'm batting 1,000 with female blonde billionaires. Hat tip, Larry Chang, vagina whisperer. And so why do tall blonde females not have imposter complex? Why? Because of this. People have been trying to mate with tall blondes since they were my age, when I was young. And so what happens is there's an abundance that happens when you're a tall blonde female. And that abundance carries over naturally into entrepreneurship should the tall blonde female start. This is just true. This is data driven, okay? And I've personally been the data collector on a lot of this data. Is it scientific? It's better than scientific. It's engineering efficacious. Scientific sucks, okay? The scientific method, like first principles is physics. First principles with no money is engineering efficacious. And so using engineering data collection as a tall blonde female, you have an abundance mindset. So in entrepreneurship, you don't have to be the gender or the race that you are. You can do gender reversal entrepreneurship exercises. So you could watch this video and say, what would I do as Larry Chang, Caucasian, white male who's short or tall? Pick one. It doesn't matter. Because the way you outreach and close deals, the way you work in consent, because remember, as women, we play consent on easy mode, where we never have to ask for consent. We just assume consent. And what happens when you assume? You make an ass out of you and you're bankruptcy bankrupt, right? You and you. And so when we as women train as Chinese men playing the consent game on hard mode, what do I mean by that? I heard that as women, we can actually retract consent, meaning we gave consent October 31. But on November 9, when Larry Chang stops texting me back within like an hour, because Larry Chang had to go to the Internet of Things conference in Ottawa, right? He didn't text me back super fast. Now I'm going to go ahead and file a rape charge, right? So I can retract consent. It's going to get tossed out by Jose Garza, district attorney, or George Gascon in Los Angeles, because even the district attorney of Los Angeles, who's trying to pillage the entire county of Los Angeles, right? Even he is going to realize that the case has no merit. But women are the only gender that are allowed to retract consent, meaning they can go back in time and say, oh yeah, I consented, but 5 years in the future, I'm going to retract that consent. So this is not a political statement. This is not a legal statement. I don't want to keynote Harvard Law School. What I want to do is help females play consent for, I consent for you to pay me money. Because when women actually try entrepreneurship, the results are amazing. The results are amazing, amazing. As I'm bumping into the microphone. The results are amazing. And so when you do gender reversal entrepreneurship exercises, you can go to a conference using the gender of tall Chinese man who's 6'5". Because you enter a meeting, okay, and you could feel those eyes undressing you. And the first thing you lead off with, hey, no one's having sex with me today. We're here to work, bitches. Solved, okay? You're funny, you're to the point, and you definitely are ready for countermeasures. Leading off with that might be strong, but it is bringing out your lady boner to be the biggest swinging D in the room. Maybe you don't want to hit people in the face, okay, with it, because I have a giant schlong and I try to not like hit people's back of the head while standing in front of them. So I just have my giant schlong, okay, ready for if somebody's a jerk to me. Have you heard of microaggressions? Well, you can dial the countermeasure. You can dial the countermeasure to your acuity, to your specific level of countermeasure. But you definitely don't want to just hear the microaggression and then discount it or hope it goes away. So meeting, mirroring, and matching the level. Or pick the Chinese man traditional route way, which is, oh, I'm going to get you back. I'm going to get you back within 100 years. And when I pummel you, Chalmers Seacrest, I'm going to spend $2 million after you die to fucking ruin you. That's fuck you money. And that's gender genius reversal and time is a flat circle. Have I mentioned Joe Dispenza, chapter 11? If you have a shot clock, let's say we are a 32-year-old female, and I realize that being 32 as a male is different from being 32 as a female. We don't have to get stressed that this startup needs to take off. We can just become best friends with Larry Chang, get him, convince him, woo him to be non-employee co-founder. Woo him. And then he'll double my company for no money because I want to raise the stock price before Roelof Botha buy stock in you. That's why I have one LinkedIn contact. because I'm loyal. And then maybe stop slutting around. I could sleep with 15 women, 2.1 per day, but instead, I sleep at a fraction. Chapter 7, bang less, get ahead. Do you see how Vagina Whisperer has nothing to do with being a pussy magnet? Well, nothing, like 80% overlap. But do you see how I make it like there's no overlap? Because some of these things are actually pussy drying statements. Because, oh my God, he's good looking and he knows it. So what? Who cares about what I look like? Can't you just pay attention to my mind? Can't we be sapiosexual? Can't we? Right? Like, no gay jokes, no heterosexual jokes. Like, you'd be so bangable if you just talked less. That's a microaggression, okay? That means you don't want me to express the 17 books I read this week. Why don't you want me to express that? You jealous, females? Are you jealous that you can't read and I can? Vagina Whisperer's got a solution for that. It's a 3-way. 2 girls, 1 cup. 2 girls, 1 book. It's the best 3-way you'll ever be in. It's the best 3-way you will ever be in. This is how it works. I bring 2 girls into a hotel room that one of the girls buys. Now, you can't accuse me of rape. What is that? Where you force Larry Chang to have sex with you and your 2 girls? Oh, the thing that happened to me when I was 11. So it's 2 girls, 1 book. Focus. This fixes women's brains. Problem. Your phone broke your brain. Solution. What they don't teach at YCombinator, which is 2 girls, 1 book, 4 minutes. 4 minutes reading. Nobody touches their phone. 4 minutes reading, 4 minutes reading. 2 girls, me, 1 book. The 2 people watch the 1 person read a book. It's called book roulette. It's like Russian roulette. Instead of 1 person dying, book roulette is everybody becomes 1/4 as genius as this guy. 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes. Oh, but we do audiobooks. This is why. We want to PQRST. We want to speed read. And those 4 minutes of reading, you can get months and months of knowledge in those 4 minutes of reading. This is how the math works for 2 girls, 1 book in a Larry Chang magical 3-way. A book takes 20 years to write. Most authors have 2 good books maximum, nonfiction, in them. Okay? So now, as a 19-year-old YC person who sold a company already, I get to read 80 years of knowledge inside of a week. Well, for you, you've read 1.2 books in the last 10 years. Sorry, 1.2 books total this year. How many books have I read? How many books have I read? I've read more in an hour than most people in the room total will read all year. You're trying to get 80 years of knowledge in just a week. If it takes you a week to read 400 pages. So let's say initially you read slow because you're distracted. I'm going to take that female vagina, I want to fuck Larry Chang energy, and I'm going to turn it into chapter 7. I want that sexual tension to go right into the book, because that's chapter 11, Think and Grow Rich. Transmuting sexual energy. Transmuting sexual energy. 4 minutes. She has to read. And then she passes the book to me, and then I read. And then the way that I read is physiological and tonality and body language, where you could feel that I'm reading. Sometimes this is how girls read. They'll be like, they're literally moving their lips because they're so used to doing audiobook. You can triple a person's reading speed just by getting them to stop moving their lips. Is some of this stuff amazing? It is, right? That's why the Vagina Whisperer invites you to do a three-way group text. A three-way group text. Let's get it going. Pick a book.